To all here, and thanks to Darshan that we are able to do all this. And I really wanted to hear it myself. So I had my own interest, and that's why I tried to make sure that somehow it is done before I leave next week to India. So it is my great pleasure to have known Professor Anand Kumar, and then find out that he was a professor at the All India Institute of Medical Science and Reproductive Biology. And after his retirement, he has kind of similar interests, although we have different opinions on several things, which I love. Because when you have different opinions, then you kind of learn from each other. So he has been such a, one second, somebody. So he went into literature after his, and I tried to inspire him to do some more science. He said, no, I'm all done with it. He has forgotten whatever that is, but he has done great work in literature. He has written a couple of books. And then this work he did when he was he was a fellow at the Indian National Institute of Advanced Study in Shimla. It's very famous, very prestigious. And he just finished that fellowship last year, in 2024. And I'm not sure he can tell us whether he has completed the whole thing that he wanted to do or it's in work in progress. But we're looking forward to hearing you.
Can we just get confirm everyone can hear?
Can you hear?
Thumbs up?
Uday Kanji, can you hear us? Aparna.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
everything
Okay.
is clear.
Okay, good. Okay. So,
Lucas boy.
It turns some time to introduce it to center to his.
you want to?
I would like to.
Yeah, please. If everybody introduces, he doesn't have to talk.
No, only one sentence I would like to say.
Because
Yes, I recently got acquainted with him.
No, we are.
A doctor turned poet. Both his left and right brains, I always comment him in a friendly because we are family friends, that they're equally being developed and progressing. So highly rational studies, and then highly he's understanding the emotions. This is a total synthesis of what we understand about human psychology. That's all.
Right. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Balram, and thank you, Balaji, for such a nice introduction. And I always believed, even while I was in the profession, that science is for mind and art is for heart. And unless there is a combination, you cannot be an integrated person or a complete person. And can you pass this book to me? And after my retirement, actually, since before my retirement, I started working. Can you see me? Yeah. I started working on this text, Padvmavat, on which a movie also came. You must have seen, there was a lot of controversy. And it was published by Mullick Mohammed Jayasi. He wrote in Persian script, although it is an Avdi book. It is an Avdi book, but he wrote in Persian script. And now the version I have, it is the Avdi script. And it was published in 1540. 1540, long time ago. And I have almost completed, and I am editing a complete translation of this book, which has, say, about 653 verses. Yeah, 653 verses. And it took, over a decade to translate it, and now I am editing it. And I call this translation transcreation because it is not possible to translate word by word or metaphor by metaphor, because the metaphor in one language are quite different from that of another. So to keep its understanding simple, I have to work on it. so that, I can put it to English knowing crowd. Now I begin with can you see that?
Yeah. What do you want?
And I want to show my
share.
screen.
Share.
Yes. Yeah. So it is an interpretive translation, which is called transcreation, that I have done. And it's not going. And this is the, beautiful painting that I got painted by an artist. This is tantric painting, and it describes the various steps in the yogic journey and Sufi journey of this particular poet. And this is in Persian. It is, it's written Padvmavat by Mullick Mohammed Jayasi. Now, so the English translation bears a different name that I call Expedition to the Beetle Cave, the Ascent of Consciousness and Self-Discovery and Fall from Paradise. So the name I have changed so that, you really understand that what is the idea of the book. So this name, that the new name, gives the idea of Padvmavat. And in 1540, when he published this book, I'll just show you how was the literary milieu of the world, of India and of the world. Amir Khusro was a predecessor of Mullick Mohammed Jayasi. He died in 1325. Kabir Das shared, say, about 54 years with Jayasi, and he was greatly influenced by Kabir Das also. And Mullick Mohammed Jayasi was born in 1464 and died in 1542. And Ravi Das, you must have heard this famous name. He was a contemporary. Guru Nanak Dev was a contemporary of Jayasi. Sur Das was a contemporary. And Guru Nanak's son, Sri Chand, was also a contemporary of Mullick Mohammed Jayasi. And Goswami Tulsi Das and Mirabai, all these great literateurs of India, were his contemporaries. It is very strange that he mentions the sampradaya established by Sri Chand, but he does not mention Guru Nanak. That shows during those days the fame of Sri Chand, Guru Nanak's son, it spread like wildfire, more than his father's. So in England, the scene was very different. King Henry VIII was the ruler of England and Scotland, and he was the father of Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth reigned during the period of Jayati, but not reigned during the period of Jayati, because Queen Elizabeth was only 9-year-old when Jayasi died. And then these are various names. And Shakespeare was born 22 years after Jayasi's death. But in Jayasi's Padvmavat, you will find even Shakespearean tragedy, even this Aristotelian tragedy, that is the Greek tragedy, and Persian tragedy, all of them, because as I studied Padvmavat, I found that Jayasi was a great scholar, and he has mentioned his scholarship in one of these verses, and he was very well versed with Aristotle's poetics, because Aristotle's poetics was destroyed, and it was the translated editions in Arabic were available, Arabic and Aramaic. From that, Greeks have later reconstructed Aristotle's poetics, but the the versions which were available were Arabic and Aramaic. And then it was, a commentary was written by Avicenna in Persian. I'm sure Jayasi must have read that, because there was a great traffic with Persia those days. Whatever was published in Persia would come in no time to India. You know, those days the books were handwritten and they were copied by hand and they traveled to far lands. So India was always, the first recipient of all the Persian books. And it's very interesting who were the rulers of Delhi during his time, his contemporaries. Babur ruled Delhi from 1526 to 1530. Before that was Ibrahim Lodi, and thereafter Humayun was the ruler, and thereafter Sher Shah Suri ruled Delhi. So Jayasi experienced the reign of all these three rulers. And other people who influenced Jayasi very much was Mullah Dawood or Maulana Dawood, who wrote Chandayan. That was, I think, one of the early Avdi epics, and it was published in 1379. So almost over 100 years, 150 years. And then Jami, his full name was Hakim Nuruddin Abdul Rahman Jami. He wrote Yusuf and Zulekha. And they were contemporaries. Jami and Jayasi were contemporaries, and Jayasi was very much influenced by Jami's Persian epic, Yusuf and Zulekha, and I have found that almost he has taken some of the ideas exactly from there. So there is a great correspondence between Abdul Rahman Jami, who was a Persian poet, and then Nizami of Ganjavi, who was, over 300 years before Jayasi. He had written Khamsa, and his poems, his epics also influenced Jayasi a lot. And about Padvmavat, I will like to tell you how highly it is rated in India, but it is very unfortunate it is not yet introduced to the English-speaking people in the way it should have been done. Padvmavat is one of the greatest epics of Hindi, Ramchandra Shukla said. Ramchandra Shukla was the first person to have resurrected Jayasi and introduced Jayasi in the Hindi departments of Indian universities. So now Jayasi is a compulsory reading for MA courses in all the Hindi departments. And he introduced Jayasi in 1920s. And since then, Jayasi picked up his fame. And Vasudev Sharan Agarwal, another Indian doyen and a great intellectual and a great writer, he says that Padvmavat deserves a place amongst the greatest epics of the world. And indeed, I agree with that. And Shiref, A.T. Shiref was an ICS officer who, the first translator of Padvmavat was Grierson. He was an ICS officer, and he published from the Asiatic Society of West Bengal in 1911. He could publish only 11 cantos, and thereafter his Hindi help or Avdi help, that helper died. So he stopped the work. And then later on, Shiref, another ICS officer, took help of other Avdi knowing people, and with their help, he completed the translation. So the translation done by Grierson and Shiref was completed in 1940, and it was published the same year. But before that, when it was published, since Ramchandra Shukla's standard edition was available, Shiref took directly the help of Ramchandra Shukla. He kept talking to him and his version, and he translated it. And Shiref says that Jayasi, the prophet of unity, if we could meet him now in the Elysian fields and could ask him whether he had approached his theme from the Muslim or the Hindu standpoint, he would, I imagine, answer with a smile that he did not know and that he had never seen any difference between them. This was the A.G. Shiref's view, but of course I would differ from him. I have my own views. And Vijay Devnarayan Shahi, he was another very great scholar on Jayasi, and he was the person who removed the mask of any kind of spiritual veneer or say the Sufism or Nath Yoga, etc. He said he was a pure poet and the rest is coincidence. Of course, I do not agree with Vijay Devnarayan Shahi also, because when I have translated, I found a very deep influence of various philosophies and which I have given in great details in footnotes, including Srimad Bhagavatam. I found, that there were verses which are almost equal at both the places. So, but these are supposed to be very great men in Hindi and Hindi literature, and Shiref and Grierson, great men in translation. This is what they have to say about Jayasi. And of course, Jayasi, I would agree with all of them that he was a very great poet. And Vijay Devnarayan Shahi said he was the first proper Hindi poet. And he says that the Kabir's poetry showed a lot of effort, but Jayasi's poetry in Avdi was effortless. So he says that Jayasi was the first proper Hindi poet of first Hindi poet. Of course, he was an Avdi poet, but Avdi later merged with Hindi. Rather, Hindi came out of all these languages. And parts of Padvmavat, particular, I will show you, I have divided it into 3 parts. Parts of Padvmavat, particularly the first part, combined Nath Yoga and Sufism to create a love story. He created a love story. Its basis was Sufism and Nath Yoga. And this is the first interfaith, unreciprocated love story ending in a communal violence. That chapter he names as Hindu-Turk War. Jayasi names it.
Turf war?
Hindu-Turk, Turkish.
Oh, Turkish war.
Yeah. So he says it is the, the war between the Islam and Hinduism. And this was the first interfaith faith love story, unreciprocated love story, ending in communal violence of very high order, in which about 30,000 Rajput soldiers died. But it delicately bridges the interfaith irreconcilable tension in the verses on the personal cost of his fame. He has made a very great effort, and that tension is very visible when he is trying to, put these kind of, two ends over one fulcrum. So it was really a very commendable job that he tried to do, and with such beauty and such ease he has done. But this tension is visible in his lines of the verses. And this book reflects the development of a novel diversity in India. Earlier, there were, various kind of diverse groups were there, but here, this includes the new diversity that came with the Islam to India. So I have named, that is why I have named it Expedition to the Beetle. I will explain what I mean by Beetle Cave, the ascent of consciousness and self-discovery and fall from paradise. Jayasi has accepted the principles of Sufism, principles of Islam, and the Indic principles of Vedanta, Yoga, and Tantra. So in the principles of Islam, part that is in the part 3 of the later part of Padvmavat, where there is complete dvayat of Islam. In Islam, there is a complete divorce between the God and the cosmos. God sits in some remote heaven and, manages the cosmos from there. In Indian Vedanta, in Indian system, Dvait is also there, that God is different from, but here he has upheld Advait. Advait is monism, that there is everything is one which has become all the manifestations and all the objects of the universe. So the Brahman has become the universe. And in Islam, it is a great shirk to say that the God has become, or God is also in the man. It is a punishable offense. Islam had Tawheed. It had an idea of shirk and Tawheed. Tawheed means, again, Tawheed means oneness of God. Actually, the oneness is not a correct word. Partlessness of God of Islam. That he cannot be broken into, several units or several energy domains or several small gods. No, he is single and one who rules the universe. It is called monotheism. Here, Advait is monoism. The Supreme has become gods, man, animals, cosmos, everything. But in Islam, he has not become, but he has already created all this from some other matter. And he maintains the 5 pillars of Islam, that is the zakat and pilgrimage, and zakat means the daan in Hindi, and roza, namaz, all that, those 5 pillars are there. And Sharia is to be followed, which, even Sufis insist that Sharia is the basis of Sufism. And at the same time, with great deftness and with great, there is no word, I'm not getting a word for it, with great cleverness. Cleverness is not a right word, but I'll use that here because I'm not getting the other word. With great cleverness, he has upheld Hindu practices like yoga and Vedanta, where, one merges with the Supreme. Ratna Sen merges with Padvmavat in some heaven. And Tantra also, he has, the Padvmavat represents the feminine divine, the Shakti aspect. And he has upheld vegetarianism also to balance. And here, in this balancing, he became unpopular. I think so. That is why this book was only sung by minstrels. But it was not, in any proper form, or never a matter of study, or never a matter of respect. Most people did not know about it till Grierson discovered it from those footpath shops with bad print, etc. Those, they sell on the footpath. So then from that he translated, but that was not a very correct version. And Ramchandra Shukla later on refined it, studying several versions. Then he took the common version, which was common to all manuscripts. And this is how, and finally, Vasudev Sharan Agarwal and Mata Prasad Gupta, finally they prepared a most standard version. They actually studied many more versions and then compiled the most standard version. So what Jayasi did, what was his technique? That he combined yoga and love. And he almost believed that the yoga and love, they are the same thing. So he had a great facility, of moving from yoga to love, love to yoga, and you would not know where he's talking of yoga and where he's talking of love. Because yoga and love both join 2 points. Man, yoga also joins man with the divine, and love also joins man with his beloved, or man, the ultimate beloved is the divine. So this formula he found, and with great facility he was, moving to and fro this bridge. So this is how he created some sort of seamlessness between 2 approaches to spirituality. And I'll quote here Ananda Kumaraswamy. He was a very famous name, and he published a book in 1924. I quote him, Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra mentions the Lord only as one amongst other suitable objects of contemplation, and without the use of any image being implied. So in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, you see that it could be God without any image, or it could be any other thing. It is just concentration on any object that suits you, and this concentration is more important than yoga in controlling the mind than the objects of concentration. And without the use of any image being implied, but the purpose of the lover is precisely to establish a personal relation with the beloved. So the beloved and the plastic symbol is created for this end. So a symbol is created. So divine is the symbol of the, or the beloved is the symbol of the divine. So if you concentrate on the beloved, you are concentrating on the divine, and it is the same thing, whether it is yoga concentration, or a lover's intensity, the lover's intensity with the love for his beloved. And at one point he writes, Jayasi writes, yogis do austerities to tie their hearts to love. So with this formula, he was able to create a delicate balance between these two divergent ideologies. And so he used Nath Yoga. Nath Yoga is very different from Patanjali's yoga. The yoga today, modern yoga, is Nath Yoga. In Patanjali's yoga, there are not so many postures and so many things about, health, etc. It's not there. It is just you need one Padmasana kind of thing so that you sit in a comfortable posture, and little bit about breath, not these kind of details which we now have. It is all given by Gorakhnath. So Gorakhnath's yoga is the yoga which is being practiced today. When we refer to yoga, we refer to Nath Yoga. And the Gorakhnath's yoga had a different ideal. Indian ideal of moksha is not one, but under the category of moksha, there are several things. Like Vaishnavites do not, they maintain a duality with the divine, and their moksha is to go to Golok and continuously serve the divine, become his chair, become his stool, become his umbrella, or become his, whisk, become something, become his food or something. So they want to become that, to be in the vicinity of the divine and always adore him. That is their moksha. They do not seek to merge with the Brahman. Similarly, the Gorakhnath's yoga is that you begin with the body, explore the universe, because body represents the microcosm, the universe. So you begin with the body and explore the universe by knowing your own body, knowing your own potential. And then once you know yourself, your body and your potential, you discover the whole cosmos. So there, the way of knowing cosmos is through body. And then they believe in some kind of Deha Siddhi, that one should become an ethereal, immortal, non-aging being. And he should not die. So, like Mahavatar Babaji said, to have all these qualities. Mahavatar Babaji is also related to Nath Yoga. And then they want to permanently dwell in an eternal paradise. Islam also has an eternal paradise. There is no moksha. When you either go to paradise and live eternally there, and go to hell and live eternally there. There is no way of coming out from that. So if you go to hell, you can never come out of that. That is why, many people who believe in Islam are so scared of hell. So, but here in Nath Yoga, they have imagined an eternal paradise, something like as they have in Islam, or in Vaishnavism also, Goloka. Here it is called Siddhaloka. So they want to go to Siddhaloka and meditate there forever, and they can come back to earth also in a in a transformed body. So this is their goal of yoga. And now, where is that paradise? This diagram I have made, and Nath Yoga, many may not know that they use various sort of imagery. And with these images, they find it is most convenient. They, in Vedanta, it is all consciousness, talk about consciousness. But here, they have split it to the various levels, like from Mooladhara Chakra. It's very difficult to explain all these things in this small, short talk. But from Mooladhara Chakra, the consciousness that is called Kundalini rises and comes up to the crown chakra, that is the Sahasrara, or the infinite consciousness. And then Kundalini is the bridge between the material body, and the super consciousness. That makes the bridge. And between Sahasrara, or the cosmic consciousness, and the higher levels, here in the forehead, there is a very small kind of passage, which they say it is thinner than a hair. I'm not going into medical anatomy or anything. This is the yogic anatomy that I'm talking of, which is very subtle, which may be true or may not be true for others, but for yogis believe it to be true. So here, and this is also called Brahmarandra. Here it is located, Brahmarandra, where, all the bones, they fuse after 6 months of birth. 6 months or 1 year of birth. And here, this is a very, very thin passage, they say. And here, when your consciousness reaches here, it starts experiencing transformation, and it starts experiencing such kind of bliss. It is like a paradise. So, and this is also called by Kabir Das and others, earlier, by Jayasi. Jayasi is the progenitor of all of them. He calls it Brahmar Gufa. Brahmar is the mind. And this Guha, from here when he enters, he is able to have the vision of paradise, over which lies the Sahasrara, or cosmic consciousness, where everything is. You just experience but cannot tell. So this is the beetle cave. And Sufi path is the path of love. Anyway, this is a sort of poetic representation, but I'll explain in brief. Love. When love becomes very intense, it becomes so intense that you lose your own form and awareness of the beloved. Everything disappears. There is no qualification, no boundary, nothing left except unconditional love without any boundary. And this is by, gradual sadhana in Sufism one achieves. When it becomes unconditional love, then you have achieved it, because the love is another name of 100 names of God. So then you achieve God, 100 names of gods of Islam. So by the intensity of love, reaching that love where everything else disappears, then you start, when there is no lover, no love, no object of love, only pure flame of love remains. That is the state of moksha, or that is the goal of a Sufi, to realize the divine. And then the Islam is a bit slightly different, but Sufis also believe in Islam, and Islam is very much there in both. So he had balanced it very beautifully. And then after he goes to a place that is he calls it single dweep. He calls this Brahmarandra, or the Brahmar Gufa, or the beetle cave, he calls it single dweep. So the journey to single dweep is very, very difficult to this level of consciousness. And then once he reaches there and he meets and, consummates marriage with Padmini, the Shakti, the Purusha meets the Shakti, thereafter, but this consummation is not final yet. And he again falls down on the call of his wife to Chittorgarh. And there, Aladdin Khilji invades and another story begins. And he has written this book in Awadhi. Awadh is an area, which is on its east is Banaras. Its north is Nepal, because in certain Nepali regions also Awadhi is spoken. Allahabad is in the south, Prayagraj is in the south, and Bareilly, town of Bareilly, is in the west. So this area, and say about, it is 1,000-year language. It is from Shaur-Seni, Magadhi or something, I can't tell you in detail. And it was very popular from 10th to 14th century. And it is still spoken by 7 crore people, mostly the villagers in eastern and northern UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, and southern Nepal. This is still, used language. Its first composition was in 11th century around. Whenever my time is over, you let me know.
Time is never over. Only you decide.
Raur Bel was the first, and then its prose was written in 12th century. And Amir Khusro's poem is very well known. All of us know the Kahe ko byahi videsh sun Babul more, hum to hain Babul to hai baag ki koyaliya, kuhkat ghar ghar jaun re. This is a very famous song.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Kahe ko byahi videsh re. And its first epic was Chandayan, written in 1379 by Maulana Daud. And there were 2 very great poets of Awadhi in the same time. One was Mullick Mohammed Jayasi and another was Goswami Tulsidas. And it was not only, the other reasons. The other reason was Tulsidas, when he wrote his Ramcharitmanas. Both of them wrote in the same Baiswadi language. But when they wrote in Ramcharitmanas, it was so beautifully and grammatically correct and so, fit for singing that Mullick Mohammed Jayasi, which was, his Awadhi was a bit cruder, and it was a Shaivite text, yogic and Shaivite. And Goswami Tulsidas, both of them were in Awadh region. In the Awadh region is the region of Rama. Ram Bhakts are more there than Shiv Bhaktas. So then Mullick Mohammed Jayasi faded. And with the advent of Goswami Tulsidas Tulsidas's Ramayana, Ramcharitmanas, came 35 years after Mullick Mohammed Jayasi published this Padvmavat. So till then, Awadhi grammar was not fixed. But Goswami Tulsidas almost made Awadhi grammar very clear. And Awadhi grammar was fixed much later by poet Keshav Das. And it was much later in 1555, much later. And to 1617, that was his period. He formalized the grammar of Awadhi by the writings of these people. And 24 books are attributed to Jayasi. I'll not go in reading the names of those books. And this was the first translation of Jayasi by Grierson, only up to Canto 10. And the rest he left. And it is about 57 cantos. So he did little work, but couldn't complete it. And then later, in 1940 to 44, Shiref completed it and published it in 1945. And he had great help of Ramchandra Shukla. He was professor in BHU, and he had compiled the standard edition, which was later found that too was not standard, and more standard editions were prepared. So, and the first standard edition of Jayasi was published in 1924. Second edition was published in 1935. And this 1935 edition was used by Shiref. And then another edition was prepared by Mata Prasad Gupta in 1952, and another yet better version was produced in 1955 by Vasudev Sharan Agarwal. I have shown you this.
This is by
Vasudev Sharan.
this is the last one.
Yeah. And I have divided. Well, they have not divided the book. They have introduced cantos, because Jayasi has not divided the book in any. It is just a flowing verse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, up to 653 verses. It is called Masnavi style. So the cantos are not defined, but Mata this Grierson split it into cantos. And this was followed by Ramchandra Shukla in his Hindi edition also. And but I divided the book into 3 parts, because these 3 parts I found that they are entirely different, and it is not possible that he could have written these 3 parts in 1540. It is at least the work of 20 years, because the kind of scholarship of Hinduism that he shows at least takes 25 to 35 years for a person to become, to know about Hinduism. This is by my own experience. So it is not possible that one can write. So it was, Ramchandra Shukla also mentions that probably he started the book in 1520, and immediately, he finished it in 1540, and he was in great hurry. He combined 3 books, to my mind. He combined 3 books, because in 1941 he died actually. Although I have said 42, but in Islamic calendar, 41 and 42, they go together. There is some kind of superimposition, or. So, and he was very ill, as he has described some verses that he was very ill. He was suffering from Parkinson's disease. His head was all the time shaking, and also he had some eye trouble, because, all the time the eyes were watering. So he combined these 3 books, but I have considered these 3 books as separate, although I have translated all the 3 parts. Part 1, book 1, is the journey. The Ratna Sen hears about the beauty of Padmavati, and then he leaves everything, and he journeys crossing 7 oceans or 7 chakras, and then he reaches the Kailash, or what you call single land, where he finds Padmavati. There, Simmal. And this Simmal is not Sri Lanka, because that is made very clear in the text. This Singal is it's an island on the east of Odisha, and very difficult to travel. Between Odisha and Singal, there are 7 different kind of oceans that here. So this is basically, it represents the Brahmar Gufa, or the Beetle Cave. And this book follows Indian tradition. There is a happy ending that they get married, and he starts living there. And so this is a happy ending. Like it is a typical Indian ending, that all the endings are happy. They are not, Indians are not well known to make great tragedies. Although Mahabharata is a tragedy, there are many tragedies, but generally the end is sukhant, or a pleasant end. So this book fulfills all the criteria of being an independent book, because it ends in a happy note, that they get married, and happily he lives in that paradise. But then his wife, in the second part, book 2, then the fall begins. He returns from paradise on the call of his wife. And this portion contains a very beautiful poetic writing, which is called Baramasa. And it is sung by villagers and, everyone, even without knowing who composed it. It is sung like, and it is so beautiful to sing. And its rhythm is so beautiful. And it shows the relationship of mind and the universe. You never know that how the universe changes with your mental perception. The same thing looks different with your change in the perception in the mind. Same, the world becomes very sorrowful. Here, in the Baramasa, you'll find there are passages of, all the 12 months, all the 6 seasons. India has 6 seasons, not 4 like West. All the 6 seasons and 12 months are beautifully described when he is in single with his new wife, that is Padmavati, because that is heaven. But the same 12 months, they were the suffering for his wife in Chittorgarh. And in Chittor, and then, whatever, this clearly establishes the relationship between the microcosm and macrocosm as it is in Nath Yoga and Sufism. And this Baramasa is only an Indian tradition. From beginning from Kalidas and even before, it is not there in Persian traditions. And its Persian translations, so-called translations, have omitted Baramasa. But it is its most beautiful part. And then the third part is, now he is back to Chittor, his wives are fighting and they hate each other, Padmavati and his other wife in Chittorgarh. And then Sultan of Delhi, Alauddin Khilji, comes to know about the beauty of Padmavati. He invades and he asks for Padmavati. And great Hindu-Turk war, as Jayasi calls it. As not me, as Jayasi. And I'm not at a liberty to call it otherwise. So this is Hindu-Turk Yuddh. This war takes place, and the hell breaks loose, and there is Johar and so many things that happen. And so this is the result of the fall from paradise. So that is why I have given a new name to the book that I have shown you. And it's very important to know Jayasi's transformation, because Jayasi wrote one book that was called Akhri Kalam, that was all Masnavi he wrote, and that was the period of Babar. And it is a very strongly Islamic book, that those who do not believe in Islam will go to hell. And he describes the judgment day, all what will happen and how Muhammad will save the Muslims, etc. It is a Pakka Islamic book. And it was written at when the Babar was ruling Delhi. Babar died, Humayun came, and then he wrote another book, Kanavat, on the life of Krishna. And Krishna and Gorakhnath, they come to war, because Gorakhnath was an ascetic yogi and he believed in renouncing the world. Not like today's, in today's Gorakhnath, Nathpanth, many people have, even Tantrics have joined that cult. But those days, it was a pure cult, and his major focus was on good character, vegetarianism, non-alcoholism. And because Buddhism was practicing such kind of, the practices in Buddhism was on Tantra, drinking, womanizing, all that, and Tantric sadhana, that people started hating. And the women will not pass near the vihar. Nobody would allow Buddhist monks to come to their house. And Kapaliks had also joined Buddhism, those who would sacrifice human beings. So Buddhism was under disrepute. Shankaracharya came from south, and Gorakhnath came from north. A couple of centuries later, and Buddhism disappeared by there. And Gorakhnath was also a Vajrayani Buddhist. His name was Ramana Vajra. And then he, because of, he did not agree with the moral practices. So he founded his own. And from Tantra, he took the idea of Ida, Pingala, Kundalini, Sushumna, etc. He got from there. But so in Kanavat, he shows that pleasure-loving Krishna. Krishna is, the personalized form of cosmic Godhead. And Gorakhnath, he is a Shaivite, where the ascetic Shiva. So they even quarrel. And finally they agree, but that your path is also right, my path is also right. And Krishna is for prayers. The attainment of God through the word and through prayers, means pleasurable. Through what is pleasurable, you can attain God. You need not reject it. You can live in the world. And Gorakhnath was only for Shreyas, only for God. You have to reject all else. But here, both of them agree. Your path is also okay. My path is also okay. Prayers is also okay. Shreyas is also okay. So, and then he wrote Akhravat. Here, Akhravat, you see the change in Jayasi. And during this, and all these three later manuscripts are published in the same year. He couldn't have written three such books in just 1 year. They were written and kept somewhere. But when nobody was the emperor, he immediately published, seeing the disposition. So Akhravat he published, and in Akhravat, he accepts that even Hinduism is all right, or any path is all right. Any path that leads you to God, everything is valid. And here I'll say, he writes in Akhravat, verse number 25, paths to God are as many as the stars in the sky and hairs on the body. Wherever one searches him, he finds him there. With this understanding, my heart sings with satisfaction. He says, which is a great departure from the Islamic ethos. But Islamic ethos he follows in the third part. So that is why I say third part was written around the time of Akhri Kalam. But since the characters were common, he just put them together because he was dying. He did not make separate books. Anyway, he published 3 books in 1540. And he says, in Avadhi, if I read, it is, Bidhina ki marag hai tete, sarag nakat tan roa jete, jehi herate tehma pava, bha santok samuji man gawa, Akhravat 1540.
Beautiful.
And he appears infidel in Padvmavat in part 1. So, this is one of the reasons he was never accepted in Islamic texts. Even Badayuni, who mentions other writers, other Sufis, does not mention Jayasi. He was, he was a no man. Nobody is going to touch him. And so from this, he came to Indic monism. Acha. I think we have already talked to you about that. So now about the translation. Its Persian translation was published by Abdul Shakur Bazmi in 1618 to 1619, about 100 years later. But Persian translation, as you know, is only couplets. And only 3,000 couplets are there. Like he has published, so much, but it is very brief. And it is called Raat Padam. And it is not very comprehensive. And he has removed Baramasa. And he has removed even Jayasi's mother, who is very much there in the first part. The mother is also removed. So actually, translations are not translations. They are only transcreations. Because they want to bring the truth out according to the view of the translator. And then English translation was published by Grierson and Sudhakar Dwivedi in 1911 up to Canto 10. And then Ramchandra Shukla's critical edition came in 1935. And Shiref published his edition based on the Ramchandra Shukla's in 1944. And then critical editions came. They were compiled by Mata Prasad Gupta and Vasudev Sharan Agarwal. So I have done the whole translation because I thought that I have good facility with Avdi because my grandmothers used to speak Avdi language. So I had some kind of relationship with the language. So I thought I should do it and I attempted it. And about great translators are right. Sri Aurobindo has translated Kalidas and so many, and nobody can parallel his translations. He says a good poetical translation is the rarest thing in the world.
Yes.
But on the other hand, there was a great writer, Professor Manoj Das. He was Padma Bhushan. But he did not get so much of fame because he was not, catering to the West. He was catering to Indian sensibilities. He was a great.
Books.
Yeah, he wrote in English. He was bilingual as well as Odia. He says, he told me about the translation was so bad. The original was so bad. Original was so bad that somebody said, I wish the original was up to the level of translation. So this possibility is also there. And poetry can only be translated by poetry and verse form by verse forms. The business of poetical translation is to reproduce not the exact verse, but the exact images, associations, poetical beauty, flavor of the original. So you cannot, translation is not that you exactly reproduce the same words, but the ideas should be reproduced. And the other thing Sri Aurobindo says, that essential aim of a translator is to define exactly what elements in the poetry demand rendering, how far and by what law of equivalent values. It should be equivalent values. Each may be rendered, and if all cannot be reproduced, which of them may in each particular case be sacrificed without injuring the essential worth of the translation. And then you cannot translate metaphors like Jami uses, that her lips were like that of pistachio. It will be ridiculous if you translate like that. So translator has to take liberty whether it will suit, the culture or the language or the presentation in a foreign language. So Sri Aurobindo even said that you have to, look into the metaphors and need be delete them or alter them suiting the new language in which you are translating. And Emile Victor Liu, he was the founder of Penguin, this book publisher, Penguin book.
Penguin Publications.
Penguin Publications.
Yeah.
And he was a great translator, and he translated Iliad of Homer.
Yeah.
It is one of the best translations, and he also advocated the same view, law of equivalent effect, he called it. That effect should be translated, the translation should be effectual to the reader of that language. It is not necessary to have the same words into another language. And he says that the effect, as the original translations are not mathematical or geometrical equivalents. So what is new in my translation? It is translated from the new critical editions, not attempted earlier. Verses were considered from the point of view of Hatha Yoga, Kundalini Yoga of Sri Gorakhnath, as well as, and I have used the texts like Gorakh Pani and Siddha Siddhant Paddhati, and also from the point of view of Vedanta, Tantra, Sufism, and Islam. So I have examined each verse from these angles and put them in short notes, translated also and put them in short notes. Thank you for your patience. If you wish, I can read a few translations, one or two, if you wish.
I was looking for
Okay. Because, unless you understand, you won't be.
One small question I was going to ask you separately. It will not take much time. This book, when he wrote it, that time publications, the paper publications didn't start. So now, because I'm also in that line of ancient manuscripts, Kerala going and on, Hindu scriptures, so it must be either, it's much advanced than the copper plates and much advanced than the stones, but it would be maybe on the
paper and ink.
Huh?
Paper and ink.
We had paper already.
Very much.
By that time, 14, 15, we had paper.
Yeah.
But so, manuscripts are preserved somewhere. I was going on browsing about...
Many manuscripts are preserved.
Okay. That's what
like Tarapatras and...
Technical, Tarapatra we call, no? Okay. So it's, the original is authentic. It's not like Shruti and Smriti learned the mantra and then divided. We don't know exactly which is the one, no?
Now like he praises Shaiva-Sufi. None on earth is as just as he. It's about Shaiva-Sufi because in Masnavis, you always praise the Shaiva, the king of the time. None on the earth is as just as he. Even an ant moves unscared of tyrants. No Sherwan, famous for his justice, falls short of Sher Shah's measure. Shah matches with Omar's judgment. Omar was one of the caliphs and the father-in-laws of Muhammad. Shah matches with Omar's judgments, praised across all the continents. A lost nose ring lies unclaimed in an alley. Boys toss and catch, sovereigns mid-street. Cows and lions walk on the same path. Both drink water from the same ghat. His coat sieves the milk from the water, the parts the two from each other. Strong or weak makes no difference. He speaks truth and judges by the dharma. The earth as a whole joins its two palms to bless you, the Shah. We will our crown till water flows through the Ganga and Jamuna. Now, let's go to Singhal. He is going to Singhal. So he writes, I sing now the lore of Singhala. I tune out Padmini's legend. This saga is an unmatched mirror. The reflection is identical to the object. This suggests, now it is proven that this was a historical event. Padmavati was a historical event. Records are found, many things are there. I will not go into the detail, but he says the reflection is identical to the object. This is a very powerful line. It shows that it is a true fact. Glorious the land where women wear lamps, the god sent out Padmini there. People speak of 7 islands, none surged up to Singhala's pedestal. The Isle of Lamp remained in the twilight. Sarandeep, which is now called Serendeep. Sarandeep was not as bright. Jambu Island was far from close. Lanka was fainter than the single shadow. Reed Island was just a wild forest. Honey Island engulfed human beings. None of the firstborn 7 islands proved a match to single island. It was so beautiful. I will just read about the, in the Mansarovar Lake, some women are coming who are, what is the time?
One more prayer.
What?
Maybe
I'll just finish this. The damsels who came to fetch water were gorgeous Padmini women. For the lotus scent coming from their limbs, addled bees buzzed around them with a lioness's waist, the eyes of a gazelle, the swiftness of a swan, and the coo of a quail. They arrived in droves and returned home, displaying manners pleasurable to men. Their teeth flashed like electric bolts through the cloud of hair, flowing head to toe. Their golden pitchers and faces gleamed. They came and went with playfulness, cast from the edge of their crescent eyes. Their sidelong glance pierced man's hearts. These women were like wax figurines. Their beauty surpassed the power of my pen. Now imagine the glory of that princess, whose water maids were these nymphets. This is about Padmavati's beauty.
Very beautiful.
He describes about a market in Singhal. Country's love mart was wondrous. Well turned out sirens roamed freely. These prostitutes, beetle in mouth, floral costumes, and rings with precious stones dangled in ears, fingers playing veena, enchanted deer, entranced men stood rooted, spellbound. Their brows were bows, their eyes were hunters. These shooters fired sharpened arrows, curls rolled on cheeks, laughter rippled, a curled wing once sent effected the kill, a gentle slide of negligee over breasts, unveiled orb-like chopper pieces. So many players lost game pieces, rubbing their palms, they wistfully retreated. Gorgeous courtesans stole men's heart till their pockets were full, relieved of wealth and thus companionship, the men took their leave. So this was about Love Martin. And one more I read. Flower girls, ye Malin hai wahan bathi, Malin. Flower girls sat with blossoms in the mart, some with exotic beetle leaves in their stalls. Perfumers sold all kinds of scents and camphor-bound catechu tablets. Pandits chanted scriptures at their altars, showing the path of dharma to man. Raconteurs narrated, notches enacted, and farces too were performed. Magic, tamasha, and con artist stage shows, puppets danced and pirouetted. Music played, good words were heard, illusionists and actors played their drama well, skillful tricksters displayed their art and mesmerized the gullible folk. Thieves came slyly into the grand show, trailing con men and pickpockets, watchful men protected themselves. They went home safe with their wealth. So thank you very much. I'll end here because it's a huge book and there are a number of such pieces. When you hear, actually, their sound effect is so much that you may go to sleep.
Several thousands, no? The lines.
Yeah, several thousand lines.
Okay, well, thank you.
Beautiful poetry and very originally feeling like we are reading in our
Yes, share.
Put any questions?
The English translation, which is now in the market, one is by that 1941 one,
Yeah.
that writer one. But that's also in poetry, verse only.
And that's all.
Because I read parts of it in Avadi because I'm very comfortable with Tulsi Ramayana and this Avadi, and also Surdas was also contemporary, no? Almost.
Yeah, he was.
Surdas.
They were almost that.
He wrote in Braj.
Are there any questions online for online people?
He used the Urdu script.
Okay.
He used
Persian.
Persian.
So you mentioned the influence of, well, I guess I'm a little unclear with the influence of sort of the Sikh tradition on this, because you mentioned there were a lot of contemporaries and they were, but it doesn't come.
Yeah. Sikh tradition started with Guru Gobind Singh. And Guru Gobind Singh also considered himself as Hindu because he has written Dasham Granth and so many things there. And Sikh, earlier, it was just, one of, like so many Gandhis, Kabir Panthis, one after another gurus, like that it was there. And Guru Nanak was, because he was a Nath Yogi. Guru Nanak's son was a Nath Yogi. And he lived for 135 years. And he coronated about 5 Sikh gurus. He was always called to coronate the Sikh guru. And Sikh guru, I think Harkishan or some, they used to give their children to him to join his cult. And his cult used Sri Guru Granth Sahib as their primal text, but they were exponents of Vedanta. So they exposed Vedanta through the writings in Sri Guru Granth Sahib. Yeah. And they spread it among Hindus like anything. Like my own grandmother was a Nanak Shahi. And in the temple, where it was an Udasin or Nirmala temple, the Mahants, they were Sikhs, but they were no different from Hindus. So the other gods and goddesses were also there. But their primary text was, like today it is Ramcharitmanas. So Ramcharitmanas also used to be there. And Sri Guru Granth Sahib also used to be there. And she told me that they would, sometimes it was recited. And he was Ari Samaji also, is her father, my grandmother's father. He was Ari Samaji also and Nanak Shahi also. So they would have, this Granth Sahib part and they will distribute Kala Prasad. So like that. So those days were different.
And then
Alok, do you have a question?
Yes, sir. Namaste to all. And I enjoyed the whole thing which sir had just mentioned. I just want to ask, here is a controversy about Padmavat and the character Padmini here in India historically, and you are translating this beautiful book. So my question is that in contemporary Persian discoveries of Alauddin Khilji, Amir Khusro, Baruni never mentioned a queen named Padmavati. So Padmini is not described by any which I mentioned. And the first reference of this Padmavat by Mullick Mohammed Jayasi, a Sufi poet from Awadh, as you mentioned, written about 240 years later after Alauddin's invasion of Chittor. So it shows a huge gap. So each Padmini was a character or just imagination, because when we read the Padmavat, so we found that it is written in Sufi Premakhyanam tradition. And the Sufi Premakhyanam tradition, we found that Mullick Mohammed Jayasi used the allegories to write the Padmavat, like the Chittor. Chittor is just mentions as the body, Ratan Sen as the mind, Padmini the wisdom, Gyan, and Alauddin as desire and lust. So
Not desire, Aladdin is mentioned very nicely in that, and Raghav Chetan is mentioned as the devil.
Yeah.
So what's the question?
So my question is that does Padmini is a character or just the imagination of the Sufi Premakhyan, which is originated in Padmavat through Mullick Mohammed Jayasi?
It is a very, very good question. And I would say that there are two women in Indian history which have haunted Hindu consciousness to date. One was Draupadi and another is Padmavati.
Yes.
And about Padmavati, I say she was a historical character. Because there is a book called Chitai Charit. Chitai Charit was written before, that is also an Avadi, that is written from Rajasthan. I can give you the name later. It was written before Padmavat. And Chitai Charit also mentions in some instance that what you did with Padmini and Ratna Sen. Chitai, she begs for her life from Alauddin Khilji. And there also in two verses, Padmini is mentioned. And Padmini is also mentioned about say about a couple of decades later in Nabhi Nandana Granth, that is the Jain text. What happened? Ratna Sen. And I have examined the family tree of the Maharaja of Udaipur. That also mentions Ratna Sen. And recently, Dr. Sri Krishna Jugnu found a statue of Ratna Sen and his father in some village in nearby Udaipur. And he could clean it and see that their names were written and the dates were also written. And this fellow, Rana Ratna Sen, ruled only for 1 year. And thereafter he was, whether he died or he was captured, that is a different, but they were historical figures. Now in the chronicler of Alauddin Khilji was somebody else. But Amir Khusro would always go with him for the wars, and he also on his own right. So he has written a book, Khazanul Fatu, and which is translated by Professor Muhammad Habib. Professor Muhammad Habib is the father of Professor Irfan Habib, the famous leftist historian. And he, in his footnote, mentions that Padmini indeed existed, because there is a place when Alauddin, when Amir Khusro says that he sent, like, Solomon sent somebody. Solomon sent a bird to find out about something about Sheba. The same way, he was like a bird was sent to find out about some bird, something he refers, and he says that shows that it often, when we talk in these matters, we use metaphors. It is, although it looks vulgar, but even in Hindi language, when often males talk, they say kya maal hai instead of naming, or what a chick. So these words were also used. And Archaeological Survey of India in 1956 or 59 excavated that. Now it is closed in Chittorgarh Fort, and they have found several levels of ashes with human bones, and they could identify something was done in 1100 something. So at many different time periods, jawhars were performed.
I think his question was more whether it is the same. There is historical Padmini, but is this the same being described?
Yes. This is a epic. So story is there. Padmini was there. Ratna Sen was there, and the attack of Aladdin Khilji is well recorded. Barni also mentions the attack of Khilji, but they do not mention by name Padmini.
Yeah.
And their reasons are very different. The reason is that he got such a slap, such a shock, because wherever he went, he took away the queen. Like from Devagiri, he took away that queen. What was her name? I'm forgetting it. And her daughter also. Her name Deval Rani. And on that, Amir Khusro wrote another epic, and the name of the epic was Deval Rani and Khijr something, that story they wrote. So historical figures were there, but here he actually was badly insulted. So that is why their name is not given. And by the way, let me tell you, even Mirabai's name is not in any historical record.
Yep.
Mirabai's name is not in any historical record, on any stone or anywhere.
Not stone.
Yeah, it is not inscribed.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and also Indian historians have a very doubtful reputation. And I have seen the records of Allahabad High Court where they very badly castigated Indian historians. Some professor of history appeared for Ram Janmabhoomi case, and he said that when court investigated him, he found he had read only a 5-page article from somebody, and he came as an expert. So the historians, but new historians and new facts are emerging, which suggest she was there, and Ratan Singh was indeed there, and his name is recorded in the what is called Shajara of Udaipur dynasty.
Right. Thank you. Any other question? Any other question from there? Anybody? My question is this: was he born in India? Is Jayasi?
Jayasi was born.
Where?
Details are not available.
How did he know Awadhi? I guess that's what I'm asking.
No, he was born in Awadhi, and they say that he was born in Amethi or something, or many people say that he immigrated from somewhere else to Amethi. So, but his biography is not very well known.
Did he was born, that means his parents were here. Because I mean, what I'm saying is that did he get interested in this as a poet? Or was this something that was, on the plate?
Actually, in Indian tradition, all the epics are written either on historical characters or mythological characters. You will find everywhere. This is the general tradition. Either they choose a, figure from history or from mythology. So this also shows, and the one line also says that their reflection is as true as the object.
Yeah. So he chose to write in Awadhi, even though he used Persian
script.
That means he didn't know. That means he didn't know the local script, Sanskrit script. And that's why it's in my mind whether it really came from outside.
But he says that he has read all the 14 Vidyas. which means Vedants and Upanishads and Puranas, etc.
That must be.
Yeah. So he must be knowing Hindi, Devanagari script, but maybe he had more facility with the Persian script because he wrote mostly his.
Or maybe his message was completely. He cannot say this. I mean, he's writing, when somebody writes the script inside. Yeah, maybe he had.
It must be for outside.
Yeah, he was trying to message it to somebody else. Because if he knew the language, if you know the language, especially the way he wrote some of the phrases that are, it looks like he knows local stuff pretty well.
Very well, very well.
So he wouldn't be able to know unless he speaks it or hears it.
And I know even he used, like one maid is complaining, he on Queen said murder this parrot. He I know, murder this parrot. Otherwise, the ailment of horse will come on monkey's head. This is a Avdi Kahawat. Avdi saying. Because in the stables, they would employ monkeys.
Yeah.
So that the horses do not fall ill. Because they believe that the horse's ailment will come to the monkey.
Oh, I see.
So he uses this kind of,
Yeah, local.
And he describes all the birds, flora and fauna in local language. That you have to go to Avdi people, those living in Awadh, that area, to find out what this bird means.
I'm from that area.
Yeah.
Oh,
And also,
we are from Awadh. Oh.
Amethi used to be one of the places in Sultanpur district.
and he also mentions, now there is a fight between Odisha and Bengal about the origin of this Chena sweets. Yeah, Bengal got the right. So he also mentions Chena sweet in 1540 in the marriage party there.
So the reason is because many people, I mean, obviously you are one of those people also, who considers and questions the motivations of Sufis sometimes. The Sufi poets, they played games sometimes, but he's not one of those guys. He's a very sincere poet and philosopher of some kind that he's trying to convey to human beings. He just happens to be that he has Islamic background. He happens to be perhaps born in our Kshetra. And then he could use, but why I mean, there are many other languages, like you say, even Braj Bhasa is there. He could have used Braj Bhasa. So that's why I'm asking.
He was the speaker.
He was
He mentions because his house is also there, which was discovered later on. His house, people have.
Okay. Yeah, but that makes sense. Because then if people have that, that makes better sense than what he was. But then he was writing it in another language. That means he was trying to convey to somebody else. Like sometimes I write something for my children, they can read Hindi. But sometimes I transcribe it in English. In part, my kids can read, but their spouses don't. So I want to convey, just psychology. My psychology that I want their spouses also to be able to get some sense of it, rather than just isolated my kids. So he probably meant maybe his parents were from, I mean, Persian has a great culture, right? Of literary value. I mean, even today they have. So that is irrespective of Islam. Islam came just later. This happened to me.
Well, you see that he himself says, which is very un-Islamic saying, which is Muslims will never accept, and that is why he was, outcast. That there so many paths are there for God, and each is true.
Yeah.
But the part 3, that is why I say it was written earlier during Islamic, when he was under Islamic influence. Later on, he evolved to.
Yeah, there was a poet in my opinion. I asked before we started this Chaupai or Quantran. It's a style in Persia. There was a guy Kumar Khayyam. Umar Khayyam. And he wrote in like 1100s, so just about when Persia was being invaded by the Arabs. And so he wrote all this in a drunken mode because he couldn't write otherwise. So he wrote, somebody who is drunken will say this, because he wanted to say something that was not very nice to Islamic people, or at least the idea of this. So he just, so I mean, like you say, poets always find some way. I mean, most of us, not just the poets, scientists also, why do I choose something to do? Because I had I started working on Ayurveda. Why? Because I come from a village. And people don't know. When I became director of Center for Indian Studies, I could have just chosen something else to do research. But I did Ayurveda because it's related to my village. I have this experience. And I bring it out when I talk about science and especially Ayurveda. It's very easily practiced in the village. And so I just made that connection and I use my science to convey it to people. And I can say that very strongly today. Like we just have discovered, I think, mentioned to you, the Tulsi. Everybody has Tulsi.
Yeah.
The Tulsi has so unique things. We are only using the science to explain that. And deep down, I'm confessing it, deep down my thing is people should know more about the villages rather than just talking about only cities because that's taken from somewhere else. India is really a country of villages. So what I'm saying, there is a motive. Even in science, there is a motive. Poets have more freedom. And yeah.
Was there any Jain or Buddhist influence on this?
Yes, very much.
Yeah, and
Very much.
Buddhist influence or Jain?
Buddhist.
Regarding the
Buddhist influences.
scripts,
Mm.
the Hindi birth is after Bhartendu Harishchandra, the proper that the Khadi Boli Hindi, which will speak Khadi Boli Hindi came much later.
He is the Sahaja influence is there, that you can see. He uses that terminology also.
So regarding the scripts, I have been even reading that in fact, which surprised me when I saw one inscription in Brahmi in
Can he
Kashi,
use this?
and the same inscription
Oh,
came
somebody is
absolutely in Kanchi.
Yeah, there's also.
Okay.
Because I'm from south, migrated to north and then south like that, extreme south, Tamil Nadu, Andhra. So in Kanchipuram, the script, I wanted to know from you that when the Islamic people came, the Persian, just read from books only, no, I don't know really. Persian, Turkish and Arabic scripts started getting used. And India had its own languages, so many languages they call dialect, but they have such rich poetry. They even call South Indian as dialect sometimes. So these languages had their own scripts, and if they don't have, they used Brahmi, Granthi, Sharda and all. So is it by that time, North India, is it that most of the people used to write in Arabic, Persian and these scripts in the common?
No, there were various.
I wanted to know because we studied.
In court line, I don't know this so much. I worked in a very.
Yeah, but in general.
But in general area, in the courts of highly educated people will use, Urdu or Persian, not Arabic, Urdu and Persian.
Urdu is
Urdu and court language of Persian.
Okay, Persian.
Even the last Bahadur Shah Zafar would speak Persian in his household. So the language was Persian, but the other, the second tier the general high class people will use Urdu. They will write, but they will also use Hindi. But Hindi came much.
Devnagari.
Devnagari was also used, and local script like Kathi was also very much.
Yeah.
Kathi script was very much. There are many scripts.
Tipu Sultan came to South, that time, Karnataka and Hampi and Andhra. There are some inscriptions in the question, because I have this burning call, why they use that script, which was more of the Gulf scripts, one of it, and mixed with it. They're not able to decipher whether it is Turkish or Persian, but the meaning of it is in Kannada and Telugu.
Okay.
So it's really very
last
interesting.
question, and then it's 11:30 in India. So we should formally say thank you to all of them to join. Is there any last burning question? Anybody from there? Okay. I hope you all enjoyed, and some of the comments are great. Thank you so much for joining, and then we will continue somehow informal discussion and any leftover pizza. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stop the recording. Stop the recording. Let's see if I can stop this.